Talia.
I instantly slammed the door close as soon as I saw the face of the visitor. However, the door didn't close completely as he was able to place his foot on the gap before it could close. "Ow," he said in a small voice. However, I didn't show any mercy as I continually slammed the door on his foot, hoping the pain would be so unbearable that he'd have no choice but to retaliate his foot. However, I forgot that he was in the Mafia for a second, because the next thing I knew, he stopped my force with only one hand and opened the door. "Talia," he said my name in such a familiar tone that it made me want to crumble. But I knew better. "What are you doing here?" I asked him, crossing my arms in front of my chest. "Talia," he repeated my name once more. I heard small footsteps coming our way, causing my eyes to widen in surprise. "Shit. Lucille." I acted quick and pulled Luciano out of the vicinity of the house, slamming the door close. I was holding onto his hand, and I felt his grip tighten around my fingers. I ignored his action and dragged him to the back portion of the house. I let go of his hand and slammed his back on the cold, hard wall. "What are you doing here?" I yelled, pointing an accusing finger at his face. Like a lunatic, he merely smiled and held onto my finger. "It really is you," he said. He then delicately brought my hand to his face, placing a chaste kiss on the back of my hand. I sighed and shook my hand away from his grip, wiping the feeling of his lips on my apron. "Answer my damn question, will you? What are you doing here?" "I came here for you," he said. "There's no other reason for me to be here than to look for you." "And how did you find out that I was here?" I asked. After 4 long years of hiding, how did he manage to find the exact house that I was living in? I was pretty sure that this town was out of the radar of the entire country. "The pageant," he said. I closed my eyes and clicked my tongue. Shit. Of course. I knew that it was going to be a bad idea to join that damn pageant. "You watch pageants in your free time?" I exasperated. He shook his head. "No, I was just scrolling through the different channels when I saw you," he reasoned. "Why?" he asked. "Aren't you happy to see me?" I gave him a look of disbelief, taking a step back. "Are you genuinely asking me that?" He looked at me with hopeful eyes. "No," I crushed his hope. "I'm not happy to see you. So, I suggest that you turn around now and go back to the Cosa Nostra. Your men are waiting for you. Now, if you have the least bit of humanity in your heart, you wouldn't tell this to the other members of the Cosa Nostra so I could continue living a peaceful life." I turned around, ready to go back to the house when he suddenly spoke. "The girl," he said, making me halt in my steps. "The little girl on TV." I froze. Fuck. He didn't see her, did he? "She's my daughter, isn't she?" It felt as if a cold bucket of water had been poured over my body. I turned around and saw him looking at me with serious eyes, very in contrast to his hopeful gaze just a while back. "What are you talking about?" I decided to fake innocence. This was the only mechanism I could think of. He took a step closer to me, and I took a step back every time. However, he held onto my wrist, gently pulling me towards him and flipping our position. He leaned my back gently against the wall, and he brought his face close to mine so that I could already feel his breath. "I saw the little girl on TV," he said. "She looks exactly like me," he whispered against my lips. "There's no mistaking that she's my baby." "The baby isn't yours." Luciano smirked, a deadly glint flashing in his eyes. "Oh, really?" he asked, one of his eyebrows raised. I couldn't help but gulp at the sight of him. It has been 4 long years since I've last seen him, but why has he even gotten hotter than before? "I'm going to ask you once more," he said, leaning closer to my face. I held my head up high, determined not to succumb to his charm. "Is she mine?" I shook my head. "Definitely not yours." His jaw ticked, and he looked to the side before leaning his face even closer to mine, his hot breath hovering over my lips. I held my breath and watched the alluring movement of his lips. Then, which scoundrel does that child belong to? I placed both of my hands on his chest and gently pushed him back. Why? What are you going to do about it if you know? He tilted his head to the side and smirked. Simple. I'm going to kill that bastard. Fuck off. How could you kill yourself? I wanted to tell him, but I kept my mouth shut and continued looking him in the eyes. Just then, the back door opened, so we turned around and saw Grandpa Fairy looking at us with shocked eyes. My eyes widened in surprise too, and I quickly pushed Luciano away from my body. Grandpa! I exclaimed. He cleared his throat and looked at the two of us. You weren't at the front door, so I opted to check on you here. I didn't know that you were meeting up with your boyfriend. Which, by the way, you haven't introduced to me yet. He's not my boyfriend, I said with resolution. He's just lost, I reasoned. He's actually on his way home now, right? I turned to Luciano, but he merely ignored my comment. Instead, he walked closer to Grandpa Fairy and shook his hand. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Luciano, Talia's boyfriend. He introduces himself. Grandpa Fairy shook his hand. I see. So, you must be Lucille's father, then. No. Yes, sir. The two of us said in unison. I scoffed in disbelief and massaged the bridge of my nose. Can you go? I asked, pushing his shoulders. You're disrupting our lunch. Oh, don't be so rude to your boyfriend, Talia, Grandpa Fairy said. I'm assuming you haven't seen each other in quite a while. Why don't you invite him to the house so we can eat lunch together?
Oh no.
I would love to join you for lunch, I said, nodding at the old man in front of me. I didn't know much about him, but I felt that he could be trusted based on how Talia regards him. He smiled and opened the door wider. Come on in. Then, Talia prepared panzanella and mushroom risotto. Do you like those dishes? I glanced at Talia and saw her glaring at me. I merely smiled and turned back to Mr. Fairy. I'll probably like anything as long as Talia prepares it. You're a sweet talker, aren't you? Talia scoffed. Well, unluckily for you, I only made portions for 3. You can go and eat on your own if you'd like. Mr. Fairy clicked his tongue. Oh, don't be like that, Talia. There's plenty of food to go around. Come on in, he gestured for me to come in. I took this as my chance. I entered the small and cozy house and was instantly bombarded by the scent of heavenly food. Talia grumbled from behind me, but she didn't retaliate any further. As we walked to the kitchen, she tugged on my wrist, causing me to turn back. What is it? I asked in a fond voice. After this, you better go home, okay? I'm being serious, she looked into my eyes. Okay, I agreed, although I planned on staying here for as long as I'd like. We arrived at the dining room, and Mr. Fairy immediately pulled out a seat for me. See? Tea here, he whispered, so you can sit next to Talia. I smiled at him and gave a thumbs up. Thanks, sir. He chuckled. No need for such formalities. You can just call me Grandpa Fairy like Talia does. I smiled at him once more. You can sit down while I fetch Lucille from her room. I nodded my head and sat down on the seat. Talia came back with the dishes in her hand. She paused when she saw me sitting down on the chair that Grandpa Fairy directed me to. So, you're really staying? I smirked. I see no reason for me to leave. She clicked her tongue and shook her head, sitting down on her chair. There were only 4 chairs on the table. 1 high chair, which I'm assuming is for Lucille, an old wooden chair with his name carved on it for Grandpa Fairy, and 2 normal chairs. Lucille, huh? I spiked the conversation. She glanced at me. For someone who's not my child, her name sounds oddly similar to mine. She scoffed and rolled her eyes. Lucille's a pretty name, it doesn't have anything to do with you. I saw her fiddling with her fingers under the chair, causing me to smirk. That's a habit she does when she's lying. It's clear that after all these years, her habit still hasn't changed. Just then, a pair of footsteps came into the room, and it suddenly hit me that I was going to meet my child, my own daughter. Even if Talia still denies that she is mine, I know deep inside my heart that she is. It's too obvious. And all of the signs point to her becoming my child. Unknowingly, my palms started to sweat, so I wiped them on my pants. When I heard their footsteps nearing, I stood up from my seat and turned around. With that, I was met with the second most beautiful sight in the entire world, the first one being Talia. It was my own daughter, and she looked just like me. Of course, there were some hints of Talia in her features, and I think it's what makes her even prettier. I felt my eyes warming up, so I pursed my lips together to control my emotions. Back then, I never really realized the importance of family, of having a wife and a child that you take care of. However, seeing this little kid in front of me made me swallow all of my past words. This feeling is incomparable. Lucille shyly walked up to her mom while looking at me. I could see a sense of familiarity in her eyes, and it sparked some hope in my heart. Maybe it wouldn't be that difficult to get closer to her heart. "Mommy," she said in a soft voice, making my heart melt. I've barely known this kid for an hour, but I already feel a special connection with her. Talia sighed and put a smile on her face. "This is Grandpa's friend. He's going to stay with us for lunch, all right," she introduced me. I frowned. Grandpa's friend? She's not even going to acknowledge me as an acquaintance? I heard Grandpa Fairy chuckle from behind me. "Let's eat." We all sat down and started digging in. I almost groaned when the food hit my taste buds. I've never eaten Talia's food before, just the coffee and soup she used to make for me. And I can say that this is something I won't ever get tired of eating for the rest of my life. I glanced at Lucille and saw her struggling to twirl the pasta on her fork, so I scooted closer to her and patted her shoulder. "Do you want me to help?" I asked in a soft tone. I felt Talia's gaze on me, and I was afraid that she was going to stop our interaction. However, to my surprise, she left us be. She nodded her head. "Yes, please." I smiled and took her small fork, cutting the pasta into smaller pieces so she could eat them better. "There," I said. "Is that better?" She took a scoop of the pasta and placed it in her mouth, her eyes sparkling in delight. She nodded her head as she swallowed. "Thank you, mister." I smiled and ruffled her hair. "You're welcome." She continued eating happily while I couldn't forget our small interaction. "This won't be the last time that I'll be taking care of you, my little one. I promise to be your knight in shining armor from here on out."
Sometime later.
The meal had just finished, and Grandpa Fairy proposed to do the dishes. He told the two of us to talk while Lucille was busy watching cartoons. Talia and I entered her room, and I closed my eyes to take in her scent. Like her habits, her scent still hasn't changed, still sweet and tantalizing. "Frankly, I don't have anything to talk to you about," she said, causing me to snap my gaze at her. "I'm just wondering why you're here," she clenched her jaw. "I told you already, I'm here for you." "Well, you've seen me. Now, you can leave. I'm sure the Cosa Nostra is waiting for you." I shook my head and smiled. I've already done my work for the week. Daisy and Reese are also in charge while I'm away. I'm sure they can handle the situation there. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Daisy and Reese know about this?" I nodded my head. "They do." She sighed and shook her head. "Whatever. It doesn't matter. You should still go. You don't have a place in here." I felt a slight pang in my chest. For some reason, it felt like her words have hidden meaning in them, that I have no place to stay in this house, and I don't have a place in her heart anymore. "Talia, please," I begged. "Can't we talk about us? About everything that happened 4 years ago? Why you left all of a sudden?" She looked away from me and scoffed. "You're seriously asking me that?" "I wouldn't be if I didn't know," I exasperatedly said. "I can't believe this," she raked her hands through her hair. I could sense that she wanted to tell me more, but she held herself back. Instead, she walked closer to me and looked me in the eyes, not the ones that used to look at me with mischief and love. Her gaze right now spoke of complete indifference. And it made my heart ache even more. "It doesn't matter what happened back then," she walked even closer. "Right now, you are nothing to me."
Talia.
I felt kind of guilty when I saw Luciano's face fall, however, I stood my ground and kept my gaze strong. I remembered the words he said 4 years ago, and it's nothing compared to mine. So, there's no need for me to feel any pity for him. Lucille and I are doing fine without him, and honestly, I feel like he's just here to shatter my world once more. You don't mean that, do you? He said in a broken voice. I do, I stubbornly said. So, I don't know how you got here or how you're going to leave, but I want you gone now. His gaze hardened with every word, and it was a shame that I almost forgot how stubborn he truly was. It was the very reason why we didn't get along during the first months we've spent together. He's just as stubborn as me. I drove here, he said. And I'm going to stay here, no matter what you say. I already talked to Grandpa Ferry a while back, and he agreed to let me stay here for a couple of days. What? You asked him without my permission? He smirked and walked closer to me. As much as I know, I don't need to ask for your permission. You don't own this house, do you? My nostrils flared as I looked into his teasing eyes. You're so infuriating, I said through gritted teeth. I missed you getting angry at me, Bambi. I froze when he suddenly called me that name. It has been such a long time since I've heard his nickname for me, and it sent butterflies to my stomach. With his keen eyes, he noticed my change in attitude. He smirked and shook his head. Your words contrast your actions, Bambi. Look at you, he leaned closer to my face. You must like it when I call you Bambi, I scoffed and pushed him away, turning to the side to cool down my reddening cheeks. Shut up, I said. You're not staying here. And that's final.
Sometime later.
Grandpa Ferry, I whined. He can't stay here. He just can't. I argued. Grandpa Ferry chuckled. Why not, Talia? He presented to help me fix the house. You know that I've been meaning to fix the house for a long time now, but never really got around to doing it because of the lack of money and resources. He even offered to do it for me for free. I narrowed my eyes at Luciano. So, this is the reason why he was able to convince Grandpa Ferry so easily, huh? I'll fix it for you, I proposed, desperate to get out of this situation. I'll look for another job so I can pay some workers to do it. He frowned. Now, why would you do that when Luciano has already proposed to do it for free? There's no need for that, Talia. You already work 2 jobs. I glanced at Luciano and saw his eyebrows furrow when he heard that I was working 2 jobs. I sighed. Grandpa, I said. Is your decision already final? He nodded his head. Yes, Talia. You know that I love you very much and would listen to you any day, but I don't see any harm in Luciano staying here. He can't, I said. He's part of the Mafia. Luciano looked at me with one eyebrow raised, daring me to finish my sentence. I pursed my lips together and sighed. I knew that I shouldn't divulge that kind of information to innocent citizens. It'll only bring them harm in the near future. He's part of what? Grandpa Ferry asked. I sighed and shook my head. Nothing, I grumbled under my breath. So, there isn't any reason for him not to stay here? I stayed silent. Grandpa Ferry clapped his hands in delight. Great! You can stay here for as long as you'd like, Luciano. Luciano smiled and stood up from the couch, giving Grandpa Ferry a strong handshake. Thank you for accommodating me, sir. Now, Grandpa Ferry pointed his finger at him. I told you to call me Grandpa. Thank you, Grandpa.
Sometime later.
Since it has been established that Luciano is going to stay with us from now on, I decided that ignoring him was the best idea to do. I walked over to Lucille's room and knocked on her door. I felt Luciano trailing behind me, but I ignored him. He has been trying to get my attention since earlier, but I didn't cave in. However, when Lucille told me to come in, I turned around and sighed. Are you not going to go to your room? I want to say goodnight to my child. For the last time, she's not yours, I stubbornly said. And besides, she doesn't know you that well yet. She might be uncomfortable around you. Exactly, I said. That's why I'm going to introduce myself. I groaned in frustration and closed my eyes. Fine. Suit yourself. I turned back around and entered the room, my mood quickly shifting to a better one when I saw Lucille smile. You've already tucked yourself in? I asked, sitting down on her pink bed. She nodded her head. Yes, Mommy. I've already washed my face and brushed my teeth and everything. I pouted. You don't need Mommy to do those kinds of things for you anymore? How about a bedtime story, then? I proposed. She cutely shook her head. I'm already learning to read, Mommy. I'm a big girl now, she smiled proudly. I smiled in nostalgia. Time really flies by so fast. It feels like it was only yesterday when she was still asking me to read her bedtime stories every night, and now, she's already in her big girl phase. I was about to say something when Luciano suddenly interrupted me. Lucille and I snapped our gazes at him. Hi, little one, he said. Lucille frowned and glared at him. I'm no longer little, she huffed. I chuckled while looking at Luciano's panicked face. Oh, right. Sorry. Hi, big girl. He greeted once more, an awkward smile on his face. I could tell that he was new to all of this, but he was still trying his best. Somehow, he looks quite cute. Wait, what? Cute? Did I say that right? I shook my head. I must be going crazy. Lucille's eyes started water, causing Luciano to panic even more. Then, am I not cute anymore? She asked. Since I'm a big girl now? She was so close to tears, so I held onto her hand and pulled her towards me, giving her a hug. You're still cute, my baby. No matter how big you get, you'll still be very cute. She pulled away from me and looked at Luciano's panicked face. It's okay, mister. I'm not upset, she suddenly said, causing Luciano's eyes to go wide. I wanted to laugh at them right then and there, but I didn't want him to think that I was getting amused by his words and actions. I placed Lucille back to her original spot, but much to my surprise, she scooted next to Luciano's side and patted his thigh. Can I hug you, mister? My eyes widened in surprise. What? Why is Lucille asking that? Luciano was also surprised for a second, but he quickly agreed. I can tell that he didn't want to let this opportunity go to waste. Lucille went up to him, encircling her short arms around his neck. Luciano's face was priceless. His mouth was slightly ajar, and I swear I could see tears brimming in his eyes. Seeing the sight almost brought tears to my eyes too, but I quickly looked away to not let my feelings get too affected. The two of them broke away, and I gently pulled Lucille back. Why did you hug him, baby? I asked in a soft tone. She smiled and pointed at her face. Because Mr. looks like me, Mommy. My breath got caught in the back of my throat. Is Mr. my daddy?